Welcome back to Era 3 of the APUSH History Curriculum, and in this video we're going to be looking at topic 3.11 in the development of an American identity, specifically a national identity, but noting that there are regional differences. In particular, we'll be seeing how that identity increasingly found expression in works of art, literature, and architecture. Throughout the colonial and continental periods, before 1790, the population of the United States was increasing rapidly. From 1700 to 1775, the population in the 13 colonies grew by more than 2 million people. By 1790, it was 3.9 million, and by 1800, just 10 years later, it had grown to 5.3 million. The average age around this time was just 16, and most of these people lived in rural America, though there were a few developing urban centers, with Philadelphia, New York, and Boston being the largest, although Charleston and Baltimore weren't too far behind. As a whole, America was one of the most ethnically diverse countries in the world. 80% of the population was white, but 20% was black. The white population consisted of English, German, Scots-Irish, and various other European groups who lived mostly east of the Appalachian Mountains, although that's starting to change. Most, but not all, of the black population lived in slavery in the southern states. Such a variety of peoples meant that there was a plurality of religions, with the Anglican Church and the Congregational Church being the two largest, but Quakers, Baptists, Catholics, Jews, and Lutherans were some of the other numerous religious groups present in various areas of this new nation. The sheer number of groups and the belief that each should be free of government interference in church matters was an influencing factor in the creation of the religious clauses in the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Since most had also embraced the idea of a personal relationship with God as necessary to salvation, being able to read His Word was paramount, so education was an important part of American identity and culture. And with women expected to raise their children, particularly their sons, to be good citizens of the Republic with Republican virtues, remember Republican motherhood back from topic 3.6, they needed to be educated themselves. In 1789, for example, Massachusetts instituted elementary education for all children, both boys and girls. But this isn't just all about religion or Republican values. Literature took a variety of forms. In fact, one of the most widely read works in America was Benjamin Franklin's Poor Richard's Almanac. Only the Bible sold more copies than this annual handbook, which was published from 1732 to 1768, and reprinted numerous times afterwards. It was filled with pearls of wisdoms and aphorisms like "a penny saved is a penny earned," which delighted early Americans. They eagerly adopted many of these adages, and it helped to shape American identity as those who were industrious and hard-working. Other similar works, including the Old Farmer's Almanac, which began publication in 1792 and is still published today, followed and proved to be quite popular as well. Poetry, plays, and histories were also popular forms of literature, and they were often based on correspondence the authors had with prominent figures of the day. Mercy Otis Warren, one such author, was a key propagandist for patriot leaders in Massachusetts during the imperial crisis, and her most famous work, History of the Rise, Progress, and Termination of the American Revolution, was published in 1805 and was based a lot on her correspondence with people like George Washington and John and Abigail Adams. It was one of the first and most comprehensive publications to document the history of the American Revolution, and though respectful to the Founding Fathers, she wasn't afraid to be critical of their actions either. Since most Americans were engaged in agriculture, the time for artistic pursuits was limited and still mostly followed European influences. And really, this was something that only those in more urban areas really had access to. Portraiture was still a popular form of expression, and some famous painters included Benjamin West, John Trumbull, John Singleton Copley, and Charles Willson Peale, who painted noted portraits of George Washington, including the one that is thought to be the earliest in existence of him, which is the one here where he's wearing red. In addition to painting the portraits of individuals, John Trumbull decided to commemorate the American defeat of Britain in the Revolution with a series of paintings, starting with one titled The Death of General Warren at the Battle of Bunker's Hill. He even traveled extensively to paint the portraits of the signers of the Declaration of Independence so that he could include them in a larger work on that topic. 4 of his paintings were eventually purchased by Congress and hang in the rotunda of the U.S. Capitol building in Washington, D.C. Architectural styles that helped shape this American identity and culture also were influenced by traditional European architecture, in particular the Georgian and Roman styles. The stone and formal red brick buildings in places like Williamsburg, Virginia, and in parts of Philadelphia reflect the Georgian style of architecture, which was introduced to the United States in the early 18th century and continued to be popular throughout the Revolutionary period and even beyond. A more refined version of this, called the Federal style, would grow in popularity after the Revolution. After the Revolution itself, the Roman classical revival style, sometimes called the neoclassical style, would be promoted and popularized by men like Thomas Jefferson, who found the impressively monumental architecture of ancient Rome to be a suitable model for this newly formed country. So this style, this neoclassical, became a political symbol as well, trying to liken this young United States to the once powerful and influential Roman Republic. Jefferson designed his own home, Monticello, the campus of the University of Virginia, and even the Capitol building in Virginia in this style. And it strongly influenced the design of key buildings in Washington, D.C., especially the U.S. Capitol building and the Supreme Court building. Okay, so that should cover what you need to know about Era 3, Topic 11, Developing an American Identity. We will expand on this even more when we get to Era 4 in the post-War of 1812 time period.